Amongst the fantasy beings that roam Tolkien's universe, higher than the mortal races and the lesser spirits, none are greater than the Valar. These were Ainur. They were spirits that were brought into being by Eru Ilúvatar's thought. As the Ainur, the Valar were divine, immortal beings who had no physical body and could remain invisible. But even so, they often took on the shapes of men, elves, or other forms of great beasts and creatures found in nature. So before we go on forward with the video, you should know that Tolkien never had any thought of power scaling, and his visions of strength and power greatly depends on predetermined fates as well as a mix of nuanced circumstances, which is really the underlying wavelengths of magic in this world. Unlike the world of Star Wars or Harry Potter, for instance, where the storyline is used to serve the Force or the magic, here in the Tolkien verse, it is quite the other way around. So there were no mentions of power scaling by Tolkien. Nevertheless, there were still vague mentions of some being more powerful than others. For example, of the 14 plus 1 Valar that came to Arda, 8 were named as the Aratar, or the most powerful amongst them all. And with that, we can at least narrow the field down to the top 10. So let's get to it. Number 10. Nien. Nien, the Lady of Tears, is one of the most mysterious and compassionate of the Valar. Her realm isn't one of grandeur, but of sorrow and healing, dwelling alone in the west, close to the halls of Mandas. Nien is deeply connected through the grief and suffering of the world, but not in a despairing way. Instead, she reaches out, teaches wisdom through endurance, encouraging growth, and through reflection on sorrow. Her power lies in empathy and the ability to transform pain into strength. While she doesn't often intervene directly in events, her tears have great power, bringing comfort and patience to the weary. Her greatest student for a while was Olorin, who is also known as Gandalf as an Istari in Middle-earth, who learned from her the art of hope and resilience. Number 9. Yavana. Yavana, the giver of fruits, is the Valar most connected to the life on earth, and her domain is all living things that grow, which are plants, trees, and all creatures that depend on the bounty of the natural world. She is often depicted as nurturing and vigilant, as a mother always protective of her creations. It was Yavana who brought forth the 2 trees of Valinor, Laurelin and Telperion, whose light became the source of all that followed in the First Age. She is a counterbalance to the works of Aule, her husband, often concerned that his love for crafting stone and metal will harm the natural world. Her power is immense when it comes to the preservation of life, and she is deeply revered by the Ents, tree-like beings who were her creation as guardians of the forest. Number 8. Mandas. Also known as Namo, he is the doomsman of the Valar. He is the keeper of the halls of the dead, where the spirits of the deceased go to await their ultimate fate. Stern and silent, he doesn't make laws or judgments on his own, but pronounces the fates that have been ordained by Eru Ilúvatar. His foresight is vast, and he knows the destiny of all things, though he rarely speaks of it. Mandas' halls are somber, and though he isn't malevolent, there is something fearsome about his presence. His power lies in his connection to the eternal nature of life and death, and his word is final. When Mandas speaks, it is as if fate itself had decreed. While he doesn't really intervene in the affairs of the living, his knowledge and influence affect the destinies of all those who live in Arda. His most famous proclamation or prediction or prophecy was the doom of the Noldor, and then the Dagor Dagarath, which will happen in the ending of days. Number 7. Ulmo. Ulmo, the Lord of Waters, is one of the most independent of the Valar, rarely dwelling in Valinor and instead choosing to reside in the depths of the oceans that surround the world. He is the most involved with the children of Ilúvatar, often guiding and aiding them in secret. Ulmo's powers flows through all bodies of water, whether it be seas, rivers, and even the rain. He is a solitary figure, distant from the councils of the other Valar, but deeply connected to the music of the world. Through the water he reads and hears everything, and knows much of what happens and transpires across Middle-earth. Though he rarely takes physical form, when he does, it is a sight to behold, a towering figure emerging from the depths of the ocean, clad in robes that seem to be woven from the water itself. His greatest strength lies in the ability to influence events through subtlety and his deep understanding of the currents of fate. Number 6. Orome. Orome, the huntsman of the Valar, is a warrior and protector of the forests and the wild places of the world. He is a figure of strength and action. often seen riding through the wilderness on his great steed called Nahar, with his horn Valaroma echoing in the distance. Orome is one of the few Valar who actively roams Middle-earth after the destruction of the Two Lamps, and before the coming of the Elves, he was hunting the creatures of Morgoth and preserving the beauty of the land. His love for the forest and all untamed creatures makes him a guardian of nature, much like his sister Yavana, but where she is nurturing, he is a fierce defender. His power is in his relentless pursuit of evil creatures and his ability to inspire courage and strength in others. When the Elves first awoke, it was Orome who found them and brought them the light of the Valar. Number 5. Aule. The Smith of the Valar is a master of craft and creation. He is the Valar most associated with the physical world, which is rock, metals, gems and all that, and the crafting of things from the raw elements of the earth. Aule is patient and meticulous, with a deep love for making things of beauty and usefulness. It was his hand that shaped much of the physical world of Arda, from the mountains to the precious metals buried deep within. He is also the creator of the dwarves, though this was done in secret and without the permission of Eru Ilúvatar. But these creations of his were given grace by Eru later on. His greatest strength is his ingenuity and creativity, but it is also his greatest weakness, as his eagerness to create something leads to unintended consequences. Unlike his rebellious students Myron, Saruman and even Fëanor, Aule is humble and immediately submits his creation to the will of Eru, showing that his true desire is to serve and not to dominate. Number 4. Vardar. Vardar Elentari, also known as Elbereth in Sindarin, is the queen of the stars and the most revered of the Valar amongst the elven kind. Her power is in light, both in the literal sense, as she created the stars and placed them in the heavens, and in the symbolic sense, as a force of purity and hope. Vardar's presence is majestic and awe-inspiring, and her very name invokes feelings of reverence and comfort. She is the wife of Manway, and together they rule as the highest of the Valar. Vardar's light is the most potent defense against the darkness of Morgoth, and it is said that the creatures of evil cannot endure her presence. Her role is crucial in shaping the heavens, and her influence touches all life in Middle-earth, especially the Elves, who feel a deep spiritual connection to her. Number 3. Tulkas. Tulkas is the champion of the Valar and is a being of pure strength and joy in battle. He delights in the physical contest and is always the first to laugh, but his good nature hides an unstoppable force when roused to anger. Tulkas doesn't wield weapons as he was already powerful and swift just by his being. He was the last of the Valar to enter Arda, but was instrumental in defeating Melkor during the First War, personally wrestling and chaining him. Though he might be simple compared to the others, Tulkas' strength is in his purity of spirit. He fights for the joy of it, not out of malice, and his heart is always light. However, his impatience with long deliberation and his tendency to act before thinking can sometimes cause friction with the more contemplative Valar. Number 2. Manway. Manway the Elder King is the ruler of the Valar and the closest to the mind of Eru Ilúvatar. His realm is in the air and the winds, and his seat is on the highest mountain in Valinor, where he can look out over all of Arda. Manway is known for his wisdom, fairness and ability to see the bigger picture, always striving to maintain harmony and peace in the world. He is gentle and merciful, but also firm when needed, and his decisions are often guided by his deep understanding of the music of the Ainur. Manway's power is immense, but is tempered by his reluctance to interfere directly in the affairs of Middle-earth, preferring to guide through counsel and influence rather than force, a trait that he has passed on to Olorin or Gandalf. Although he isn't the most powerful, he is one with the most authority. And number 1. Morgoth or Melkor. While each of the Valar were granted insight into a specific part of Eru Ilúvatar's thought, and were therefore more aligned in spirit with that part, Melkor was different. He was granted insight into every part of Ilúvatar's thought, and was thus the mightiest of the Ainur in the beginning. But he desired to use the flame imperishable for his own ends, and thus fell into evil through his own desire for dominance over all things. His lust for power and control over Arda led him to betray the other Valar and wage war on the world. Morgoth's strength was unmatched in the beginning, and his influence spread far and wide, corrupting not only the physical world but also the hearts and minds of its inhabitants. His greatest weapon was his ability to pervert creation. Wherever beauty or harmony existed, Morgoth sought to twist and destroy it. He created many of the dark creatures that plagued Middle-earth, including dragons, trolls and orcs. However, as he slowly poured his malice into the dark corruptions, he also slowly would drain of it, and thus in the end he became weaker than all the other Valar. And with that, we end this video on the 10 most powerful Valar in Tolkien's Arda and Middle-earth. Be sure to subscribe and ring that bell icon for notifications on new uploads. Yeah, press that like button as well. Take care, guys.